Hello, everybody. Hello, thank you for being here. I'm Romina. I work for Macmillan Education. I can see some people already texting here in the chat box, so thank you very much. And welcome to today's session of Macmillan Education Time. I can see good afternoon, good afternoon. Someone has already written where they're from. So as usual, I'm going to ask you, where are you writing from, guys? I am from Monza, I should say. It's actually a very little town close to Monza. And today I'm in my house. So in Nova Milanese, for those who know where it is. So while starting, do let me know where you're from, where you're writing from Bolzano, from Pescara, wow, Bregnano, and Tuscany, Taranto. So happy to see lots and lots of different cities. So as usual, I'm going to give you a couple of organizational tips for this webinar. So today we're going to have a webinar with our speaker, Emma, and she'll be with me in a moment. And I would like to, okay. Hi, Emma. Hello. Hi. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you, Romina?
Good. Thank you. I'll just remind our teachers of a little thing, and then you'll be ready to go. So I just would like to remind you that you are going to find your attestati in the attestati section on the Mondadori Education website, and that this website will be, this recording, will be available as well. So at the moment, I'm gonna pass the let's say the microphone, even though we don't have it, to Emma. You have it, so that's good. Gonna pass it on to you. And so enjoy the session. Emma is one of our best writers, first of all, teacher trainers, and also teachers. She was here with us in Italy for the Macmillan Days, for the face-to-face events, and today she's going to tips on what she already said during the Macmillan Days. So over to you, Emma, if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay, great. And thank you very much. And
Okay.
see you soon, guys. I'm going to be here for questions, and later I'm going to be online as well. So see you in about an hour.
Okay. See you at the end, Romina.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Great. Hi, welcome everybody. It's so nice to see everybody and see that you're from so many different parts of Italy. We've also got somebody from Croatia. Wonderful. I wonder if you can also tell me what the weather's like where you are. Okay, so let's make a start. So my name is Emma, and in my heart, I'm a teacher, and that's what I do. And as I'm teaching, I'm always thinking about how can we get the best out of our students? How can we ignite their creativity? And that's why today's session is called Think Big, Let's Unlock Our Students. So let's make a start. Fantastic. We've got some sunny and warm weather. We've got it's cloudy. We've got a bit cloudy, a bit colder than yesterday. Well, I'm going to get you to try and guess where I'm from and where I'm based. When I came to Italy 2 weeks ago, where it had started raining and it had been raining for 3 months. But when I finished in Italy, I packed your son, put it in the suitcase and took it back to where I am. So let me show you where I am. So hopefully this is now going to work. Let me just start. There you go. So this is where I live. Have a look at the picture. Does anybody want to tell me where I live? Can anyone make a guess? Beautiful sandy beach. The sea on the right, you can probably see an island. There's some clouds in the sky, so it's quite a rainy kind of place. I wonder if anybody can actually guess. I'm just looking at the chat to see if anyone has any kind of ideas. People normally say places like Bournemouth in England. The problem with Bournemouth is we have stones on the beaches there. So no, oh, somebody guessed. Somebody's just guessed. Marisa, well done. Have a prize. Catch my prize. Yes, it is. It's San Sebastian. So I'm actually based in the north of Spain. In San Sebastian, we're about 25 kilometers from France, very near the Pyrenees. So most of the time it rains. As I said, I'm a teacher and I often walk home along the beach. And when the weather's like this, I start to think about my life. I start to think about my students, and some of these things begin to weigh heavy. So let's have a look. I begin to think about life outside work. What's going on in the world, what's going on in my family, what's going on in my neighborhood. And because it's kind of gray, I'm getting a bit sad, depressed. I also begin to think about my own students. My student Miguel, he waited for me to come back, and he seems even worse than he was when I left. He often throws things in the classroom. Everything I do, he seems to find difficult. And I'm always constantly thinking, how can I help him? What can I do to make things better for him? I also start thinking about the program and what we're doing. How can we make things better for him, better for all the students? It's March and I'm still on unit 2 and we have to do some assessment. What am I going to do? I also think a lot about my own time and my own workload. And finally, I think a lot about paperwork, all those registers I have to fill in, all those reports. This is when it's grey. There are a lot of photos in my presentation. I took all the photos myself. There are also some visuals, and I am going to share the visuals with you at the end. So this is on a grey day, but when the weather's better, this is what San Sebastian looks like. And all my worries disappear. And we can see a beautiful, sunny place with beautiful blue skies. And I now love my job. Everyone behaves perfectly, and nothing seems to be a big problem. So, what I would like you to do is think about a day when the sky's blue, when everything is perfect, when you can do anything you want to do. And what we're going to do is a little bit of blue sky thinking. This is thinking, imagining there are no clouds, no barriers. We can do exactly what we want. I want you to think about these blue sky days and think about this question. If you could do anything in your classroom, what would you do? And I'm just going to give you a minute to write your ideas in the chat. So do put, what would you do on this perfectly blue day? You don't have to worry about all your students are perfect, the program's perfect, everything's going really well. What else would you do on this perfect day? And I'm going to take a sip of water while you write your ideas. Let's have a look and see. I can see lots of people writing good afternoon. Let's see if we can see some people writing some comments. When we were in Italy, we did this same exercise and people talked about, well, I would do more stories, or I would do singing, or more conversation with my students. What kind of things would you do? Other people said they'd take their students out for a walk. Some people talked about we'd have more fun, we'd play games. Let's see what kind of things you would do. Nice. Thank you, Anita. Anita would play them a song. Yeah, very, very nice. Oh, fantastic, Sophia. She would take them to a beach. Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? On this perfect day with no rules, no regulations, we can do anything we like. So, what we're talking about is creativity. This is what we do if we had a beautiful blue sky. This is, oh, here we go. I'd like to take my students out and take pictures together to be commented later. And then once back at school, if only we could do that. I love that, Paula. Somebody says a drama lesson, a walking outside school lesson, and an ice cream. I would go out with them, says Stephania. I would sit on the grass and start speaking in English about ourselves. I love your ideas. So, what we're going to do is just explore this a little bit further. Interestingly, one of the people I admire a lot, Sir Ken Robinson, said this about creativity. And this is what people like Paula, Sophia, Marisa are doing, is having original ideas that have value. But he also said, if you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything original. This is interesting because we often say to our students, don't be scared of making mistakes. It's fine. It's part of the learning process. But as a teacher, I don't know about you, I'm terrified. I'm terrified of going in the classroom and making mistakes. So let's have a look at some of the things that make us so scared and what's stopping us from doing our songs or taking pictures together or even eating an ice cream. Well, somebody else, Diane Hamilton said, we stand in the corridor and before we go into the classroom, and you can see the classroom is a happy, colourful place, but before we go into the classroom, we suffer from fate. F is the fear. This fear that it's going to go wrong. I'm going to lose control. If I don't do things how I always do it, I don't know what's going to happen. We also have assumptions. We assume that things are going to happen in a certain way. We think that our student Miguel will do this if we start playing games. Maybe we have a fear of technology. What if things go wrong with the computer or what I'm going to do? And finally, the environment. Now, the environment is not ecology or being green. The environment is our physical classroom. I know that I'm frightened in the big classrooms. My students sit in rows. We can't move the tables. Maybe you can't move the table, but maybe we can move the students. Maybe our students can stand up or sit down. Let's have a look. Let's carry on and let's look at what I'm going to talk about today. So we've looked at creativity and we've looked at what Sir Ken said. And he said it's coming up with original ideas and not being afraid to make mistakes. Then we considered fate. Now we're going to look at practical ideas. How are we going to do this? Then we'll have a moment for some reflections. And finally, I'm going to give you my images. So every time you see an image, I'm going to share it with you. And Angela's come in and said she'd listen to music. Lovely. So let's go on with our practical ideas. What would I do in this classroom? So what I'm going to say to you is, yes, we're frightened. We're frightened of losing control. We're frightened of maybe putting the course book to one side. But I'm also going to say, we can use the course book. Have a look at the course book page and maybe we can turn things and make them more creative. So here's a page from the course book. It's Unit 6 and the topic is sports. Sports is fine. And then we've got some comparatives. Then we've got an exercise, number 1, which tells the students to write the comparative of the adjective. Number 2, they have to write some sentences. Number 3, they're going to compare surfboards. Comparing surfboards. When I was traveling through Italy, I was in places like Bologna, Florence, and Milan, and everyone said there, that doesn't work, Emma. Nobody surfs in these places. I know. So maybe we have to change the exercise. And that's what we're going to try and do today. We're going to take the coursebook page. We're going to say, it's okay. We're going to use it as what I would like to call our thread, but we're going to look at how we can change things, how we can make things more creative. So let's have a look. Exercise number 1. Not very creative at the moment. The students have to look at the adjective and then write the word. But why don't we turn this into a game? It's a unit about sport. So let's think of a sport. I'm thinking of a sport. Can anyone guess what sport it is? If you know what sport I'm thinking of, why don't you put it in the chat box? You could put, Emma, is it? And I will tell you if it is or if it isn't. So let's see if anyone can tell me what the sport is. And I'm going to give you some clues. You play this sport in a team. You play this sport in 2 teams. Maybe the best country in the world at this sport, the USA are pretty good at this sport. The Spanish used to be quite good at this sport. I'm wondering if anyone can guess what sport I'm thinking of. I think also the Croatians, I know there's somebody from Croatia listening to us. I think you were very good at this sport. Oh, well done, Mary. You've got it. It is. It's basketball. Here it is. So with your students, you can play basketball. Now, of course, if Miguel's in the room, maybe you don't use a real basketball. This one, if you can see it, is actually quite squidgy, so it's not going to break anything. But in a classroom with students that you're worried about, you might want to choose a ball. And what I say to the students is, well, rule number 1, I'm going to throw the ball and somebody has to catch it. So if you think you know the answer to my next question, hold up your hands and get ready to catch my ball. And that's what I say to my students. And I divide the class into 2. And I say, you're the Lakers and you're the Chicago Bulls. And we're going to play in 2 teams. So I'm going to spell one of these adjectives. If you know the answer, hold up your hands. So here we go. C-H-E-A-P. Ah, well done. I can see that one of you is holding up your hands. I'm going to throw the ball. There it goes. Woo! And you're going to catch it. So I caught the ball. And I'm going to say the word, it's cheap. And I'm going to say, can you give me the comparative? Yes, it's cheaper than. Can you give me the opposite? Yes, expensive. Can you give me the comparative? Yes, it's more expensive than. So the Lakers score the point, 1 point for the Lakers, and the Lakers do the same. They spell a word and then they throw it to the other team and they carry on scoring points. If you like, they can spell it backwards. So backwards would be K-C-I-U-Q. Hold up your hands if you think the ball's coming. Yeah. I caught the ball and I can say the word and it's quick. And again, it's quicker than, and I need to give the opposite. It's slower than. And we carry on playing and we have a winner. So that makes it a little bit more creative. Underneath in question number 2, our students need to write complete sentences with these words. Have a read. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to read it. And I'm a great believer in asking students to listen to the answer and then write things down. So what I do next is we play true or false. If you think the sentence is true, do like this. If you think the sentence is false, go like this. So, number 1, football is more popular than water polo. And I'm now looking around my classroom and I can see that everybody is doing like this. So I know they're correct. I'm going to give you another sentence. If you think it's true, do like this. If you think it's false, do like this. Motorbikes are faster than bicycles. And again, I look around the room, checking that everyone's doing like this. Now the next one. I'm going to choose a different one. Mont Blanc is higher than Mount Everest. And again, I'm looking around the room and hopefully everybody is doing like this. And what I do now is I ask my students in pairs to correct the sentence. So I said Mont Blanc is higher than Everest, and I'm listening to check my students say Mount Everest is higher than Mont Blanc. Well done. And we continue like this. Most of them I'll make false so that my students have to correct them. And notice that the false information is always the facts. I never speak in wrong grammar. I always make the mistake in the information because I don't think it's a good idea for students to listen to bad English. I want them to listen to correct English, but some of the facts are wrong. So we do this several times and then my students write down the answers. So they're listening to what's correct first. They're repeating it a lot because I'm asking them to correct the mistakes. And finally, they write it down. So a little bit more creative because I've added in a game element, but I think we can get more creative than that. So what we do next is we play with memes. Now, memes are what our students are looking at on their mobile phones when they get out the classroom. They're looking at these funny pictures and they're creating comments. So here's a typical sport, very popular in Spain, and I think it's very popular in Italy. We have a cyclist and we also have a walrus. And what I would do next is ask my students to guess the meme. What do you think is hidden under the pink box? I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think. If anyone is very quick, they can type the answer, but I think I'll get you to do it for the next one because I've got 2 examples. And here's my meme. There you go. My bike is faster than a walrus. It's not very funny, but it's giving the students an idea of what I'm doing. So I'm now going to show you another one, and I'd like you to put your ideas in the chat box. See if some of you can write what you think. So here we go. We've got the cyclist and we've also got the walrus. I'm going to have another drink of water and I'm going to give you about 20 seconds to write your answers. Oh, I gave you a clue there. I don't know if any of you saw. It'd be interesting to see. What I found with my own students is oh, lovely, Patricia, I like that one. I'm as fast as a walrus. And you can have an extra point because you've introduced as fast as. That's lovely. That's great. I wonder if anyone else has got any ideas. I mean, obviously our students are even more original than we are, and they can be quite humorous and come up with some quite funny things. Ah, that's nice. I like that one, Stefania. My bike is less fast than a walrus. That's great. You're not as fast as a walrus. Fantastic. Walruses are great. They're faster than bikes. We can go higher level. Those of you who teach slightly higher level, if only I was as fast as a walrus. And this is what I did. So my bike is fast, but my walrus is faster. So obviously we can get our students to create these. If you use Padlet with your students, oh, the walrus is definitely bigger than me. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Patricia. If any of you use Padlet, there's an AI feature that is Draw Me. And the students can write a description, and the AI function on Padlet will draw the image, and then they can put in their meme. And this is absolutely fantastic for comparatives. If you don't want to use technology in the classroom, your students can draw cartoons, cut out photos from magazines, and create their own memes. And then you can display them. I love that one, Patricia. Thank you. So, one thing is the memes, and that's creative. Oh, yes. Walruses can't compete with me. I love it. I like that one. Oh, you're thirstier than I am, I'm sure. These are great. And I imagine some great ones are going to come up. Thank you. Okay. When we were in Italy, we went to Verona and we were really lucky to go and see Romeo and Juliet's balcony, you know, where Juliet stands over and calls to Romeo and Romeo appears. So we were in real Shakespeare company. So creativity could be writing poems. So why don't we get our students to use this language to create a poem? So I've got a poem here. It doesn't look like very much. Let me show it to you. But actually, if I read it like Shakespeare, maybe it will sound better. So here we go. Motorbikes, are faster than cars. Motorbikes are faster than my bicycle, but I love my bike. So so obviously, if I was Shakespeare, I would be in front of the room and I'd read it to the students. This is a very special type of poetry. This poetry is called haiku. Those of you who know haiku, obviously it wasn't invented by Shakespeare, it comes from Japan. But what I love about it is it's really good for pronunciation and really good for vocabulary because it follows a pattern. Now have a look. We've got the title, Motorbikes Are Faster Than Cars, and then we have 3 lines. Line number 1, motorbikes are fast. 5 syllables. Line 2, faster than my bicycle. 7 syllables. But I love my bike. That's right. Haiku is 3 lines and then it goes 5, 7, 5. Have a look at this. And again, as I said at the beginning of the webinar, those of you who were there, I am going to give you all these images. So you'll have this, how to write a haiku at the end. So how do we write a haiku with our students? We tell them, take one of your comparative sentences, break it into 3 lines. Line number 1, 5 syllables. Line number 2, 7 syllables. Line number 3, 5 syllables. And then you'll need to change some of your words to make them shorter. So motorbikes are faster than my bicycle, but I love my bike. That's how you do it. And what you need to help your students with is you need some little words for them. So you need to tell them, don't forget words like too, so, as in so big, too big, as big, but, and, while. All of these words are really useful for haiku. But as I mentioned, it's also really good for pronunciation. Have a look at this one. Now, what I said is it's 3 lines. Line number 1 is 5 syllables. Can you make that 5 syllables? Oh, I'm sorry, Paula. Okay, looking at the haiku. Line 1, towns aren't chaotic. Now, my students in Spain don't say aren't, they say aren't, and they think it's two syllables. So this is great because I can now tell them, no, 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 it's one. Towns aren't chaotic. And it's very, very good for syllables and also the stress in words. So let's count the rest of it. Towns aren't chaotic, less chaotic than cities, and I love my town. Let me say that more naturally. Towns aren't chaotic, less chaotic than cities, and I love my town. And as I said, this is fantastic because in order to do it, students not only need to think about the syllables, but they also need to think about their words. So what I would say to my students is choose one of these and now create your own haiku. And when we were with the teachers in Italy, we came up with some lovely things. But we had problems with words. We had problems with the word expensive because it's 3 syllables. So it kind of takes a lot of space. And I said, why don't you use less cheap or more less cheap? Or why don't you use dear? Or why don't you use pricey? Or why don't you use costly? So as you can see, you can help the students think of new words. And everybody came up with some amazing haiku. So this is great for any grammar point. I mean, I've used it for the comparatives because that was my coursebook page, but please try it out with your students and see what they come up with. And we've got words like aren't, which is 1 syllable, but isn't is actually 2. And let's see how they get on. So let's continue. Let's get a little bit more creative. As I mentioned, the next exercise was exercise 3, where the students have to compare the surfboards. Maybe they'd like to. Maybe your students are interested in surfboards. Fine. Maybe they have a Chromebook and they can do research into surfboards. It's about sport, so maybe they could compare 2 different sports. Or maybe they could compare the different balls, a basketball, a rugby, and all the different balls that you use for sport. Or maybe they could compare 2 sports people or whatever. That would be exercise number 3. Number 4 is a speaking exercise. I'm just going to give you a minute to read the conversation. Now, to my mind, this exercise is fine. It's very, very structured. Students have quite a lot of support. They've got the sentences there. I think is than and then I don't agree in my opinion. But it is quite limited, and they are told the adjectives and they are given the pictures. And also, there doesn't seem to be much of a conversation. It's very much sentence, 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 sentence. What I like to do is give them a little bit more. So I'll often do this. I'll often look in the book and see if there's a key phrase section. And we'll go to that and look at some of the expressions. I think questions are important. What do you think of? What about? I also like the way that this book disagrees. So instead of saying, I disagree, the students say, no way, which I really like. And also, that's ridiculous, which I like too. So we could have this more as a conversation, and we could have the students saying to each other, what do you think of pizza? I think, or if you ask me, I think pizza is better than spaghetti. We could do that, but it's still a little bit flat, maybe. Should we add a little bit more spice? Should we make it a little bit more interesting? So we could play this game. Now, because I was talking in February, this was my Valentine's Day edition. And this edition is called Hearts and Crosses. And what I do here is I divide you into two groups. And I would say, okay, who wants to be hearts? Who wants to be crosses? And everybody wants to be hearts. So, okay, you're hearts. And the other side of the room, you're crosses. And then we look at the board. And this is my board. What I've done is I've chosen the topics from the book. These are units that we've been studying, so the student should know some words. And if you notice in the middle, I always have something that's called free choice, which means students can choose any topic. So how does it work? So I always let the crosses go first because the hearts have the nicer thing. So the crosses go first, and let's say they choose sport. So now the hearts have to ask them a question, and they can ask a question about the topic, but they can't say, what do you think of sport? They have to ask something in sport. So it might be something like, what do you think of team sports? And then the other team have to answer. If you ask me, I think team sports are more interesting than individual sports. And then the other group has to answer, I disagree, in my opinion, or no way, in my opinion. And then they carry on talking. And they carry on talking and talking. And then after about a minute, I say, stop. And what I've been doing is listening to their language, listening to how long have they been talking for, and how many of these expressions have they been using? Have they been saying things like, I think, if you ask me? And also I've been listening to the comparatives and the superlatives. I decide who's been using more of this language. I think it was hearts, so hearts get the point. And if you see in sport, I've done a heart. And then we continue. And now it's the other team's turn, and we carry on playing. In a very, very big class where you've got 28 students, this is difficult because what you find is 5 students play and the rest switch off. So what I do is I put them into small groups, and in their small groups, one of the students is the referee with the noughts and crosses, and they listen to the other teams and they award the points. They listen for the expressions to say, what do you think? I agree, I disagree. And they also listen to the comparatives and the superlatives. And they just put a tick. And the team with the most ticks win the point. And we continue playing. And eventually somebody gets a line. If you notice, I let the game run and run and run. So if I think the hearts are winning, I give the crosses a point because I want them to do as many squares as possible. So as you can see, this is now getting more creative, and I've put in a game element in there, hopefully to motivate the students a little bit more. So up until this point, we've been quite creative, but I think we could get a little bit more, what I say is spicier. We can step up the creativity and try and get our students to say some more things. So the final activity is a little simulation, a role play. Let's see what you think of this. So here's a photograph. Just have a look. And with my students, I would say, look at the photograph and tell me what you can see. Don't tell me what you think. Don't make up anything, just what you can see. And hopefully my students are saying, I can see a mountain. I can see some snow. I can see a valley. I can see a village. But if my students say, I can see a builder, I say, that's thinking. Don't think, because you don't know what this person does. Just see. Just tell me what you can see. And then after a moment, I say, great. What do you think? And now the students can say things like, I think it's a man, I think he's a builder, I think the village is in the middle of nowhere, I think it's spring, I think he's holding a map, etc., etc. With a good class, a higher level class, they're now saying things like, it can't be, it could be, it looks like, it seems. And then finally comes the wonder. And this is where the students can ask me questions. So again, I'm going to allow you to write questions in the chat box. What questions would you like to ask me about the picture? I'm going to have a quick sip of water and then I'm going to tell you some of the questions I had before. But if you have questions, type them in. Let's see what your questions are. So one of the questions I'm always asked is, where is the man? Well, the man is standing on a mountain looking over into a little village. It's a little isolated village surrounded by mountains. Where, I don't know, because ChatGPT created the photo for me. But I am interested to read your questions. So let's see if any of you have any questions. Some people ask me, how high are the mountains? They're high, high enough to do all sorts of sports. Some of you, some people ask me, so what is the man's job? And I say, well, the man is actually very, very good friends with the mayor of the town. His job is he's a builder. Well, he's a civil engineer. Ah, thank you, Anna. Where is the place? I'm not sure where it is. All I know is it's an isolated village in the middle of nowhere. The season, it's now spring because you can see the snows beginning to melt. Now, the problem with the village is that the mayor is worried. All the young people are leaving because they can't find work. So they're all leaving and trying to find jobs in the big town or the city. The man standing looking at the village is the mayor's best friend. He's a civil engineer and he's got plans for the village. The mayor and the engineer have decided they've watched the Winter Olympics in Milano Cortina. They think they can turn the mountains into a ski resort. So they've decided that's what they're going to do. So, what I want you to imagine is that you live or you are in the village, and you're in the village and you notice this sign in the village. So, on your notice board, it says Town Hall Meeting. Have your say about the planned ski resort. So, today is Monday. On Friday at 7 o'clock, there's going to be a meeting in the town hall to talk about this new ski resort. I want you to imagine you're in the village. Everybody's getting very, very excited, very nervous, very agitated. Some people think it's a great idea. Some people think it's a terrible idea. And what I do next with my students is I ask them to imagine you're in the town. What sort of jobs do we have in the town? And I get a list on the board of the possible jobs. So of course we have the mayor, we have the civil engineer, and then we have the doctor, the teacher, we have the shop assistant, the hotel owner, we have the students, we have people who work in the market, we have the bus driver, etc., etc. Excuse me. We have a list on the wall, on the board, and I now give the students a different role each. And I ask the students to create their new identity. So each student has a job in the town and they need to write down their name, their age, their occupation. So what are they? And this is what I've given them. they then need to talk about their connection, because some of them are just going to be, maybe they're a visitor with a holiday home, maybe they're a politician from another town, maybe the engineer who doesn't live in the town. And also, I ask them to write down their opinion. And this is giving the students individual time to think about their opinion and who they are. And what I do is I get them to write everything on one of these nice post-its. Or you could get them to create their own lanyards. I collect these lanyards every time I go to conferences. So I've actually got enough for my students. So I give them a lanyard and they create their own. Once they've done that, you've got a choice. You can either get them to wear it or they could exchange lanyards. So what they're going to do next is they're going to start talking to each other. So you're in the town, and I want you to imagine, where are people talking about the plans? And I show them this picture, and you can see some of the places where people are talking. So you can see there are people talking in the cafe, there are people talking in the market, people talking in the street, people talking at the bus stop. There may even be people in the town hall talking, and everybody's talking about this ski resort. Don't forget, some people will agree, some people will disagree. And then what I do is, and this is where at the very beginning I talked about the environment, I create these places in the classroom. So here are my little signs that I use. I create a cafe and I tell the cafe owner to go and prepare their cafe. I create the town hall and I tell the mayor to stand in the town hall. I create the market and the market person goes to stand in the market. And I'm just missing, here it is. One more I've got, and that's the bus stop. And everybody waiting at the bus stop is also talking about the plans. So I get students to go to the different places in the classroom and talk together about their opinions. And what are they doing? They're practicing. They're using, what do you think? I think, if you ask me, no way, that's ridiculous. I think this is better than, I think this is more expensive than. So we're practicing the opinions, the comparatives, and also some of the sports language. That's what they do, and I move them around the classroom. Now, I suddenly say, time's up. It's Friday. It's 7 o'clock. Time for the town hall meeting. Now, I don't know about you, but my students, my teenagers, have never been to a town hall meeting. So what I do next is I show them a little bit of a video of a town hall meeting. And what you can do is just take a clip from one of your series. Series that work well. Those of you who watch the Gilmore Girls, there are always town hall meetings in there. The other great one is Game of Thrones. There are some great meetings where people move. And what's so good, you don't even have to get them to listen. Get them to watch. Get them to watch the body language. Get them to look at, when do people stand up? And when people speak, do the others listen or do they carry on speaking? If they agree, what do they say? They say, "Hear, hear, I agree." And if they disagree, what do they say? Boo. So we watch the video and we decide how a town hall works. And then we hold the town hall meeting. Now, because I'm at home, I have a few props with me. So, for example, I have a hat and the mayor can wear the mayor hat, if you like. Or we could put a tie on the bus driver. I'm sorry about that. So you can bring some props from home and the students can dress up for their role. The doctor could, for example, have a white coat or a stethoscope or whatever you like. And then we hold the meeting. What works well is if the teacher is the mayor and the teacher controls the class. Unless you have somebody who's very, very good. You might have somebody who's good at controlling the class, then they can be the mayor. And we run the meeting. Now, teachers ask me, does this work? Does this really work? The answer is yes. When we were in Italy, I did it with the teachers and it worked very, very well. Okay, they're teachers. I've done it with beginner adults. It worked brilliantly. And I did it with a class of teenagers. They were 13 years old, level A2, but there were only 12 of them. But it worked brilliantly. They loved it. They loved everything. They loved going around the classroom, talking to each other, but they didn't like the meeting. They couldn't do the debate. They found that too hard. So you just stop it. You run it for 2, 3, 4 minutes. Thank you very much. Let's take a vote, and you stop it if it doesn't work. After you've done the speaking, maybe you want to do some writing. Here's some writing ideas, just in case. If you wanted to do some writing, of course you could get them to do a poem, even a haiku. You could get them to make an infographic. Some of you talked about you'd love to do more songs. There's a website called Suno that creates songs for students. They just have to put in the words and it will create a song. They could make a little video. Canva will create a short video for them. Or free choice. They can choose how they want to have their say. Some of you might have higher level classes. They could do for and against. Somebody said to me, why don't they create the banners that they take to the meeting? So they have to create a sign that says, I agree with the ski resort, or I disagree. And they come to the meeting with their sign. Somebody suggested they could write emails. Maybe they could write a leaflet, my arguments for, whatever. As creative as you want to be. I think there's lots to do here. We started off with a coursebook page and I thought it wasn't very spicy. So we began by doing a bit of spelling and we played basketball. We did some haiku. We also played a game, noughts and crosses, and those were quite easy and I think quite safe. We're not going to get scared. The role play maybe is a little bit more scary, but believe me, it works. The students like it. So we're going to wrap up. At the end of the day, when the sun sets on San Sebastian, it's beautiful and I'm at peace with the world and I love my job. But we did begin by saying, but what if? What if nothing goes right? Well, we've already said to our students, it's a safe space. Don't worry if you make mistakes. Mistakes is part of learning. Maybe we have to take that on ourselves. Maybe we have to just try it, see if it works. Assumptions. Maybe we assume that a student will do this or a student will do that. Just try it. Maybe the technology will fail. Maybe it will. Then have your plan B. And the last one is the environment. I can't move. My students can't move. Maybe they can. Maybe they can stand up. Maybe they can move around, walk around the tables. Maybe you can use the corridor. Maybe if it's near break time, you can go outside. Or maybe you could ask the sports teacher to do the same activity, but in sports. Who knows? So my final question is, what's holding you back? And which of the activities will you try out in your own classroom? So I'm just going to give you a little minute to just think through that yourself. And while you're thinking, I'm going to show you where you can find the images. But in the chat, if you don't mind writing, what will you try in your classroom? And if you have any questions for me, we might have 2 or 3 minutes at the end. And I'm going to show you now where you can get the images. So here we go back to San Sebastian. Yes, it rains here a lot, but there's often a rainbow. And the rainbow brings me joy. So even on those cloudy days when nothing is going right, there may be a rainbow. And as I said, as I'm talking, if you have any questions for me, or if you'd like to put in the chat what you're going to try, that would be great. Here are my references. If you want to use either learn more about Ken Robinson, this is his TED Talk, and this is the article by Dr. Diane Hamilton about fate. I took all the material from a Macmillan book, Upskill, and all the images I used, I took from using ChatGPT. And if you'd like my images, this is where you can get them from. So you can either use the QR code or you can take a photograph. And that little code at the bottom, that line, will take you to the website. So I've lost the last thing. Doesn't matter. Hi, Romina. Don't worry. It's no problem.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. I don't
We
know if
we can ask to have it back if
Can we have the last slide? It's just quite a funny slide. I'm going to just bring my friend the walrus back. Can we have the last slide, Massimilio? I wonder if he can give us. Yeah, I wonder if he can show us the last slide. And if he can't, it doesn't matter. Here we
yeah,
go.
it's doing that. Okay.
I just thought the walrus should have the last word. Okay. So as I said, if you've got any questions for us, go for it. And if you want to share what you're going to try, put that in the chat. But I understand maybe that's enough. Okay. So thank you very much.
The best way to end it, Emma.
Okay. So we can take away the slides, Massimilio.
Thank you very much, Emma. Thank you. It was extremely interesting. And well, I have to say that after the Macmillan days, I knew a little bit. I had some insights. So I'm super happy to see it again and to have some, refresh of what you've been doing with the teachers. You mentioned it as well. So it was a nice memory also. There were lots of examples that Emma used during the face-to-face events. So I'm happy that you replicated them here because that could be useful for everybody. And I can see lots of comments now of thank you, and I found very interesting like the writing possibilities. So thank you, Emma. I've seen some comments, and we might have like 2 minutes for questions. So if anyone has some extra questions, we can ask Emma now. I can help you. But meanwhile, I'm very curious about one thing, which is it might sound silly, but I'm so curious. So when did the walrus start in your teaching career? So the walrus concept, when did it start?
That's a brilliant question. Brilliant question. Do you know when he started? When I created the session, I was thinking about cycling and how fast cycling is, and I was trying to think what's slower than cycling. And then I started to think of an animal. What animal is slower than a bicycle? And the walrus came up.
The walrus.
The walrus. So please use him for the rest, or her. Yeah. What's amazing is, Marisa, you were actually there at the session. Oh, wow. Thank you for coming again, Marisa. Lovely to see you.
Fantastic.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I can see. Okay, so cute. Everyone said, okay.
So, I hope everybody managed to get the slides. If they didn't, presumably
exactly. That's what I wanted to say. So if you don't have extra questions, then I'm going to wrap up by saying that you will find your certificate in the attestati section on the Mondadori website, and also you're going to find the recording here on the same link as you used today, and you are going to receive the slides as well. And thank you, Emma, for sharing them, by the way, because we always ask our speakers if it's possible to do that. They're always so kind. So thank you for doing that. So we really hope you enjoyed this, and let's hope to have you back next year, if if I can say that live. and I'll be traveling around in schools, so you'll probably see me in person for to talk about the books. And Emma, let's stay tuned, because there might be new webinars and or sessions, live sessions to do with you. So thank you, everybody, and have a nice evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.